Success.
Success.
This is what you get. Yeah, there's someone watching it that's like going for it. No, I do love it. Dude, I'm ready for whatever.
Alright, sweet. Cool. Starting now. Never mind. Ready for the video?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, man. Cool. Present practice. What is vibing? This is Vish and
Jake, how's it going?
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
what defines our success.
This is Vish, and I've been meditating for over 3 years now and found Sadhguru about a couple of years ago, and I'm looking forward to this video. And today I'm here with Jake. Want to introduce yourself?
How's it going, guys? I'm Jake. I'm 23 years old. I am living and working in New York City, pretty much living the New York City lifestyle. I am working in finance on Wall Street, so long hours, but fun weekends. And today we're talking about success.
Absolutely. And quick side story, Jake and I are actually friends from high school, from Smithtown.
We did some science research back
we did. It was on work ethic.
Yeah, it was motivational regulation strategies.
Yes.
Yeah.
The effects of motivation regulation strategies on work ethic was the topic.
Okay, so applicable. Yeah, it's coming full circle.
We'll see if it connects. But so we've been knowing each other for a while, currently staying at this place, so shouts out to him in New York City where this is being filmed. So Jake, I'm curious, what does success mean to you?
I kind of have a general framework for what success is, and it's different to every single person. There's no objective thing. So, you asking the question, "What does it mean to me?" makes sense in this instance. But generally, over the course of a life, I think success is helping as many people as possible. And in getting to that point, you have to help yourself first. Mm-hmm. And the components of that, I think, are as maximizing your skill set and then maximizing your capital such that you can help other individuals.
Okay.
And that's generally how I go about it. But that's over like a lifespan, right? Mm-hmm. You can think of success in individual instances as well, right? Mm-hmm. What does success mean in one hobby you're pursuing? And you can set goals, and reaching those goals could easily be a success. So it's one of these very subjective things. I'll be curious to see what you said, Sadhguru.
Yes, correct. What
he says, and then we'll see.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, before we watch this, have you heard of Sadhguru himself before?
Yeah. Well, I heard about him from you. I don't think I've heard of him prior.
Okay.
So this is probably the first full video I'm actually going to be watching of him.
Cool.
Interesting.
Well,
let's get into the video.
If you want to succeed in our life, which will play a major role, Guruji? Faith, God, effort, or luck?
Or winning an election.
If you want to win in an election, that all luck is also important.
Faith, God, luck, effort. Maybe all of them. But in what proportion? So when you say faith, obviously it's something that you cannot do anything about. When you say luck, again, obviously it's something that you cannot do anything about. When you say God, again, it's something that you cannot do anything about. So only thing that's in your hands is effort. So put your 100% into your effort. What happens, happens, isn't it? So don't leave proportions of your energy and your capability to luck, God, fate, all these things. That's not your business. If there is such a thing, it will act. Your business is only effort, isn't it? Just do that. Effort has to be incisive in the sense, it should be focused, calibrated. Simply if you make effort, it's foolish effort, isn't it? Just labor is not going to get you somewhere. Right kind of action, the right timing, right place, All this is important, isn't it? So, for all these things to happen, you need perception and intelligence. So that's all you must do in your life. Constantly looking for ways to enhance your perception and your intelligence. Rest will anyway happen. This is one thing that unfortunately humanity is not doing. They're trying to become capable of something. Do not try to become capable of something. Just enhance your perception and intelligence, whatever comes your way. Right now, let us say it's like this, this is happening in the world all the time. Everybody wants to become a doctor. Not now, if 25 years ago it was so. If you want to study means, first thing is medicine. If you don't get a seat, what's next? Engineering. Don't get a seat, what? Next thing, like this. So let's say you became a doctor, and let us say everybody came to the yoga program and they stopped going to a doctor. At least your visits to the doctor has come down, isn't it? Has it? Has it come down or no? For sure, it's come down. So business will go down. It will no more be a good profession to go into, because very few doctors are becoming doctors because they want to become doctors. Others are becoming doctors because they think it's lucrative, isn't it? Isn't it so? Most people are becoming doctors because they think somebody's sickness is a lucrative business. It's a very… I don't want to go into other aspects, it's quite disturbing for me. There are a few doctors who really want to be that. They want to understand the human system and they want to serve in that direction, that's great. Suppose everybody became healthy. You don't want that, isn't it? Yes, you don't want that. So do not try to put up a recipe for your success. Success is only when you are able to use yourself to your full potential. It doesn't matter whether you become a doctor or a politician or a yogi or what the hell you become is not the thing. Success means you are living your life to your full potential. That's what success means. If that has to happen, you need perception and an active intelligence. How do I grow my intelligence? Don't worry about that. Right now, the important thing is to enhance your perception. If you're able to see life just the way it is, you have the necessary intelligence to conduct it well. If you're not able to see life the way it is, your intelligence will work against you. Most intelligent people on this planet are generally the most miserable people on the planet. This is simply because they have an active intelligence but no perception of life. So, one most important thing that people have not worked at is to enhance their perception. They're trying to broaden their mind, that's not the point. That will only make you socially successful, not truly successful. If you want to be truly successful, you must be able to see everything just the way it is, without distortions.
So Jake, so far from what we're seeing, what do you think?
Well, he's touching on a number of things, right? The first part was touching upon what he called like the social success. So what are the components? He mentions a part of it is luck and fate, and I certainly agree with that. There's John Rawls' theory of justice, which don't need to go into, but one of the presuppositions of it is that your state in life and how you're doing is really outside your control. Meaning, think about like the determinants of your success, right? You would think about how tenacious you are, how hardworking you are. that is probably due to part of your genetics and how you've been inculcated, right? Your parents and your intelligence is mostly genetics, and like so many of these factors that determine whether you're successful or not, where the socioeconomic status you're born into, a lot of that success is outside your control.
Yes.
And then even the effort component, which you kind of think of, okay, like you can modulate that on a day-to-day basis. People have different levels of self-discipline, there's genetic components and all of those things. So a lot of success is luck. So everyone who's successful should be cognizant of that fact. That being said, obviously actions have consequences, so you want to focus on discipline. Now he said it was just effort, right? Which is not completely true, right? You want to have directed effort, you want to be managing efficiency, you want to be utilizing the Pareto principle, which basically states that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. So you want to make sure that your efforts are focused in the right direction where there's the most benefit.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's some contingencies around what he's saying, but largely that's fine.
Yeah.
So that was the first component. It's like, then he shifts into like, okay, well, that's what determines your social status, which is like a success in a broad sense. It's also success in a biological sense. And he's like, okay, what is it holistically? He mentions that a lot of intelligent people are not happy. And I thought that was kind of funny. It's very apt for the times right now. So is
that something you've seen yourself?
Yeah, most certainly. So within the culture of in investment banking right now, I think it was notorious. It was like a few months ago. There was this survey that came out from Goldman Sachs analysts that were interested in investment banking, and it was like their happiness dropped from like a 9 out of 10 to like a 2 out of 10.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And this is like one of the most coveted positions. Like acceptance rates are like below 1% for these types of jobs. It's hard to get into Stanford. Everyone wants to go into it. It's been over glamorized by like the media, like movies in the past, like Wolf of Wall Street, probably most recently or most notoriously.
Yes.
But people are really striving for this social success. And as you mentioned, I think it was a very sharp point that people are going into it because it's lucrative, it's something that conveys social status, but they aren't actually genuinely interested in what the work itself is.
Yeah.
That's another component of it. Like you can become very miserable just climbing this corporate ladder. And there's this whole social strata, which of like professionals, so lawyers, doctors, financiers, engineers, of people that are just giving tons of hours, completely stressed. I wouldn't say all of them are miserable, nor even a majority, but a lot of them are pursuing this level of success and they're negating their happiness completely.
Correct.
So I think that comment is very apt, and being honest with yourself when you're going to a profession, if you genuinely like it, is super important. I think there's a Japanese concept, I can't recall what it is, it's called like ikigai or something, where your success is an integration of 4 components. Like one of it is what you're good at and what you're paid for, which is kind of thought of in like the professional sense. But there's also what's like good at the world and what's good for the world and what you enjoy. Okay. And the integration of those 4 aspects is kind of what leads to being in a successful position. Okay. So I think his perception, which I mean you're more familiar with him, so you may have a better sense of like what he's trying to get at, but the way I take it is just being like aware of yourself, your own emotional state, being honest with yourself, at least in this context. I mean it can just be like broadly meditative too, and being observant of the world, which like relates back to the other point, like being observant can be like is beneficial when you're dealing with other people. But that's tangential. Okay. But like being honest with yourself and seeing what you enjoy, what's good for the world, will lead you in a position or put you on a path in life that makes you feel fulfilled and much more satisfied. So cool. Yeah, I definitely think he has a lot of good points there. Sometimes maybe not directly pointing at it, but I agree with him in broad strokes.
Sweet, Jake. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. You seem to have not only the experience, but also a lot of the almost like, I think philosophy in terms of the connections you made, right? With who was that guy that you had mentioned?
John Rawls.
Yeah. So Jake has a lot of experience.
If there's any philosophy majors watching this, I apologize, but I messed up the theory slightly.
Well, here's the thing. Jake has not only the experience, he's sharp, he's also got the knowledge. So I appreciate you sharing all of that with the viewers. And going off a quick point you made, when he did discuss effort, I think he did mention right after, which was you don't want to have blind effort because that could just be,
Okay, fair
Yeah,
point.
so he did mention that. But then it's interesting he connected that to the two key components, which is perception and then intelligence. And before we discuss more about that, I would love to hear what you guys think, or you all. What does perception mean to you? What does intelligence mean to you? In the comments down below. And with that, let's continue watching.
Let's do it.
If you can see everything just the way it is, life becomes a play. You can play it joyfully, you can play it well, for sure. If you can play it well, people will say you're successful. You should never think, I want to be successful. Don't ever think, I want to be successful. Just see how to make this being into a full-fledged being. People will say one day, oh, he's successful, he's a great success. You should not be aspiring for success, it's a miserable way to structure your life. You will simply cause pain and suffering to yourself and suffering to everybody, because your idea of success is sitting on top of somebody's head, isn't it? Yes or no? Your idea of success is right now, everybody should be below you, you must be on the top. This is your idea of success. This is not success, this is sickness. So do not ever think of success. Just see how to make this into a full-fledged being. This will find expression. If it finds good expression, people around you will say, oh, he is a great success. That's fine. People should recognize you're a success. You should not be thinking how to be successful. Very wrong way to approach life.
So Jake, now that we've watched the full video on success and Sadhguru's perspective on this, what do you think? I'm curious.
Yeah, he seemed to have an end of the critique of just social success. And I agree with him, like for some of the points that I had mentioned earlier. But you can expand the definition of success. Like you could easily reframe it such that it fits within his definition.
Okay.
Right, where he's like, okay, you want to become, he didn't say this explicitly, but become like self-actualized.
Okay.
Right, like be aware of who you are, what your desires are, and become the best version of yourself. And when you become the best version of yourself,
Exactly.
then you're able to be in a role where, as I mentioned, you're doing well, you'll be successful.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of like, this is like an aside,
Yeah.
like on the social success part, but in terms of being like successful, it's very important to be either the best in the world at something, like in a singular thing, or one of the best in a few things. And the only way to do that is if you're pursuing what you have a natural inclination for and what you have a natural interest for.
Okay.
So like that's why being true with yourself will lead to success. If you go into a profession that you're not truly interested in and you just think, oh, it's lucrative, you won't have the same level of passion and drive as someone who's truly
Correct.
passionate about it, so you won't be able to reach that true level of success. Like that's one of the key things and important things in becoming successful in profession. So that's kind of how his self-actualization point leads to him being successful.
Absolutely. I was going to quickly ask you as well, because going off of that, I did, towards the ending, he was talking about how you essentially don't want to ever chase success or even seek out success, but essentially aim to be I think he called it the full-fledged version, or be the full-fledged, possibility of yourself, which is similar to what you just described as the best version of yourself. What do you think about that based off of his ending component for that?
Again, I don't completely agree with it, and the reason I don't agree with it is because you can define success in any way, right? And so I agree with him, you shouldn't just strive for social success. I mean, in a way, it can be a means to an end, right? Like I mentioned this, the first section, right? Like you want to expand yourself socially, be successful in the traditional manners, and then you can probably give back to communities, then you'll have a greater sense of fulfillment. So I think, sure, if you define success in that manner, then maybe it's worth pursuing.
Okay.
Or you could define success as becoming self-actualized. Like it's such a subjective thing, such that like to say, oh, pursuing success is an ill-gotten path seems a little bit wrong in my opinion. You just redefine it.
Okay.
So I think that's what's most important. You define it such that it leads to your own happiness and the happiness of others.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to realize like some people think like the point of like life and everything and pursuing things is to be happy in and of yourself, which is I would disagree with that point.
Okay. Interesting.
But
I'm curious. So with regards to success as a whole, so are you suggesting that there's, for instance, so you said there's social success. Would you also describe, where I'm trying to get at is there such a thing as internal versus external success? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends what you mean by internal success. It's certainly very different, right? This is like the classic question, is money buy happiness? And studies show that it's like up to a point, right? You reach a certain lifestyle, and after there's diminishing and even negative returns.
Right.
So yes, monetary and social status is very separate from your internal state.
Yes.
Now, and then there's two components to like what you could define as internal state.
Mm-hmm.
So when thinking about, obviously it's very easy to differentiate between social status and money from internal success.
Yes.
Like one doesn't necessarily beget the other. But I think it's one of those trite sayings that like happiness is like 90% internal. But you can bifurcate internal success too, to a sense of happiness, like a sense of joy, and also a sense of fulfillment. So the most classic example of this difference is when it comes to children and parenting, actually.
Okay.
So, like on a day-to-day basis, parents' level of happiness, as reported to researchers, is lower than it is like prior. But over time, when they look back retrospectively on what they were doing, they say there's like a greater sense of fulfillment and meaning in what they were doing.
Okay.
So when you're pursuing this internal success, you should realize that you're not, what I mentioned prior, you're not really striving for instantaneous happiness. You want to have moments of joy and peace and things of that sort, but happiness is just a biological chemical that motivates you to do things. Like if you were happy all the time, you'd probably not act in a biologically optimal way.
Okay.
So that
100%.
I mean that's kind of an aside.
You want some incentive.
Yes, like all emotions have a purpose to motivate you to do something. Regardless. So when you're thinking about your own internal success, and I agree with like that's the idea, I think you should be aiming for a sense of fulfillment rather than a sense of happiness. Now you can get both by doing something that you enjoy.
Are you saying one is more temporary and the other is more long term? Is that a decent understanding?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, there's so many different ways to define happiness. Some people differentiate between happiness and joy, where like joy is like the fleeting emotion and happiness is like something that exists throughout. Like you can be in a very good humor for like days on end when so happiness can be longer term too. I'm just saying that in terms of like overall success, I think fulfillment is what matters. And then what gives someone fulfillment, I guess that's living up to self-actualization.
Okay.
And then what is self-actualization? At least in my view, it's increasing your abilities to whatever their maximum potential is. So trying to be as good as you can be.
Yes.
And then recognizing that there are other individuals around you, and not even just humans, there's just a whole wide array of things. And helping out other people, and that will give you a true sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, and that's where awareness comes into place, right? And I mean,
it can give you a greater sense of other people.
Exactly. So those are some really interesting points you made, and I definitely noticed a lot of parallels between you as well as what Sadhguru himself was saying. I definitely did notice a bit more of, I guess, intellectual input from your side, which is great. I mean, really great perspective. And it is interesting to see how there is that, I guess, dichotomy between internal versus external success. Now, he did talk about perception, right, which was towards the end, and it was a pretty strong, word in the sense that he said that there's intelligence and there's, perception. And we did talk about intelligence before, and like I mentioned earlier, would love to hear what you think about intelligence and what that means to you in the comments down below. I am curious though, what does perception mean to you? And would you say you agree with what he says about essentially, at least from what I understood from the video itself, or what I connected with specifically, it seemed like in order to be successful, or as in reach that full-fledged version of yourself, as the way he defines it, without chasing it directly, you just want to aim for the two facets that we have the most, I guess, capabilities to even strive and grow in, which is intelligence and then perception. So first off, I'm curious, would you agree to perception being vital with this process? And if so, why? And also going off of that, what does perception even mean to you? I would love to hear your insight on that.
It's one of those words that has so many meanings. Right?
Okay. What does it mean to you?
Well, it's important the way he was trying to elaborate it and what I take from that, right?
Yeah.
So, perception is, as mentioned prior, it's like an awareness of yourself and what your true desires are, and pursuing what you're genuinely interested in, as opposed to pursuing something else.
Okay.
But then there's also one thing about like perception in a broader sense. So there's like awareness of yourself, and there's like a broader awareness. And I feel like I've meditated somewhat. You've obviously meditated more intensely than I have. But sure, having awareness of things outside yourself would certainly be beneficial. I don't know if it's essential. I think that's a very much harder point to argue.
Okay.
That it's indispensable. But there are a few ways in which I can definitely enumerate the benefit, right? If you're aware or more perceptive, just like in a strict definitional sense, you're going to be more observant of everything. If you're more observant of everything, then you're probably going to have a greater sense of what issues are, what like lies at the truth of things. If you have an unbiased, true awareness, then you'll be a little bit impartial. You can see the world for what it is, and when you see the world for what it is, you'll be in a better position to actually help change it for the better. Obviously, that's a little bit subjective in a sense, but sure, that's beneficial. And another thing that's really beneficial about expanding your perception or your awareness as it comes from meditation is, I wouldn't say the true dissolution of the ego, but maybe just some sort of separation where you're not as focused on yourself. You become focused on other people. And the practice of doing awareness, right? Are there meditative practices where you try to perceive things outside of yourself and focus on other people and like feel like the sensations? I know there's some types of meditations that incorporate that. And by doing so, you become a little bit more empathetic, attuned to the plight of other people.
Right.
And by doing that, you'll probably be more inclined to assist those people, and you'll feel more fulfilled when you do assist those people. So I guess by being aware, it helps in both understanding the world, and it helps in being a little bit more empathetic and focused on others. And then both of those the combination of the two can lead to what has been pursued recently is like effective altruism, which is like, okay, you want to help people, but you want to help people in a way that's not just throwing money at an issue and it all goes to waste.
Right.
So I think both of those help, and then when you are trying to help people in an effective way, then you're more likely to actually do it, and then you'll more likely to feel fulfilled, so you'll be more satisfied with everything. So that's where I think awareness comes into play, at least, and awareness, perception, and then the way, maybe the expanded definition than what he just mentioned.
Got you. Well, honestly, Jake, that was beautifully said. I think you have some really, really deep insight, and you were able to really analyze that well. So thank you for sharing that with the viewers. And I find it interesting. I mean, perception, it is like one of those words, I mean, just like happiness, which could be viewed in so many different ways, interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you on that. So honestly, just to wrap this all up and not make this any more confusing, because it is a very
I guess when you have awareness, you become enlightened, which is another definition of success.
Maybe, and I'm not going to elaborate any more on that because it is something I myself am exploring or trying to experience, or maybe that itself might be something you guys might catch in the comments. You can't try to experience. But besides the point, I want to appreciate you all for watching this, and also Jake, you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has actually been very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you were here. And
it's good to be behind the camera again.
There we go. And sharing your experience as well as this perspective and everything, just your insight in general with this topic. And before I let you go, I would love to hear from you all what you learned from this conversation, whether it was, you know, something that has changed your views on success, perception even maybe, in the comments down below.
Yes, and definitely if you disagree with anything or have a critique of something we said, please let us know.
Yeah, no.
I would love that.
Please, open book, open platform, whether you agree, disagree. I told Jake this before, actually, even when watching Sadhguru himself, to be yourself, because I don't care whether you agree or disagree. I value conversation the most.
You released the internet trolls, dude.
What's up?
I said you released the internet trolls.
Right.
Right. I'm kidding.
And so, last question, actually, real quick. I want to squeeze this in.
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think of the Guru himself after watching this first full video? I know there's thousands of videos actually by him. So, just from what you literally saw, would love to get your perspective on him.
Dude, I saw him for 5 minutes. He seems like an insightful guy. Like most of the things that he said, I was generally on board with. But I can't make a judgment of a person off of a 5-minute clip.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably want to read like his main book or his main body of work before I can make a thorough assessment. Like,
okay.
It's okay not always. It's okay to not
Yes.
have an opinion sometimes.
Yes.
If you don't have enough information to have an opinion formed.
Yes.
But like the general argument as he outlaid it was fine.
Okay.
It was good.
Well, Jake, I love you for touching on that, because Sadhguru himself actually talks about this really interesting concept. What he says is really just the power of the I don't know, right? So the way you just described not giving your opinion because you don't know much about him, that's a beautiful statement to make, because he himself just says whether you agree with something or disagree, or I mean the main thing is actually whether you believe in something or you don't believe in something, both paths are not the way to go, because you're picking a side without knowing. And so it's all about just saying I don't know. I think you beautifully did that right now. Well, again, thank you all so much. I appreciate your presence and energy in watching. And with that, make a great day, take it joyfully, and stay conscious. Awesome job, Jake.
Thanks for having me, Vish.
You did awesome.
Success.
Success.
This is what you get. Yeah, there's someone watching it that's like going for it. No, I do love it.